Hey pen people, Brian here. Today we're going to be looking at this pen. This is a Scriveiner. I don't know how to say it. I've heard a bunch of different pronunciations, but that's what it looks like. This is what we're going to talk about. So I got in touch with this company on Instagram and they sent me two pens to review. There's no affiliate links, they didn't pay me anything, they just sent me the free pens. So this is their EDC model. I'm going to talk about this in a different video and we'll focus on this one, which I believe is the classic model. It's a little unclear on their website, like what the names of the pens actually are. The sticker says that this is a green fountain pen, fine nib by Scrivener. But I believe it's the classic model. So Scrivener, however you say it, is a British company. So they're headquartered in London, pens are made in China, and the word you'll see a lot if you go to their website is luxury. And it seems like what this company is trying to do is fill this niche of providing luxury products at an affordable price. So what I'm going to do today is divide this review into features of this pen that I feel like are luxurious and features of this pen that I feel like are affordable. Let's start with the luxurious parts of it. That's the more fun thing to talk about, I think. And there's actually kind of a lot. Like there's some impressive stuff that they're doing with this pen for the $45, $50 that it costs. So the first thing, let's take a look at this cap here. Lots of interesting things going on there. First of all, it's a snap cap, and it's one of those snap caps where you meet resistance fairly early on in the closing process, and then it just kind of like glides in for the click. And it's really nice. It's very secure, but not overly secure. Some pens are like really hard to get the caps off. This isn't one of them. It's pretty simple, but you can tell it's snug, it's secure, it's not going anywhere, and I really like that. And that does feel kind of luxurious to me. Another thing that's really nice is this finial here. It's got kind of a pearlescent look to it, and this is kind of a greenish blue to match the green of the pen. And this is actually like, I think their website called it green black or black green or something. It's very, very, very dark. If I were just to see this randomly on somebody's desk, I'd be like, hey, look, a black pen. My eyes aren't as sensitive as some people's to color. My wife is more sensitive. She'd probably see this and be like, hey, a dark green pen. But anyway, I like how the finial does match the color somewhat of the pen itself. And they have this pen in a bunch of different colors, and you'll see if you check these pens out that the finial color is changed to match the pen body color, which is really nice. It kind of bugs me when a company goes with one finial color and then whenever they change the color of the pen, it's just hit or miss whether or not it's going to complement the finial color or just completely clash with it. This finial, it's very, very cool, very pretty. Another thing that is really nice about this cap is they've got the little logo there and then the brand name, Scriveiner, and they are, I don't know if they're stamped or engraved or however they did it, but it is indented, I guess, where you have the lettering and the logo, but it's also like painted in or lacquered or however they did it. So there's like a texture to it, but also a color to it, which feels very cool. I really, really like that a lot. So here are a few other things that feel very luxurious to me. You've got metal on metal threads, which is awesome. I really hate it when companies do metal on plastic. So metal on metal, very nice. And they're very smooth threads too. So I can just snap my fingers and it's closed. I don't need to tighten this thing at all. It's done. So that's kind of impressive. I like that quite a bit. Also, opening this back up here, the converter it comes with is nothing super special, but it's branded with its own brand, which gives it a nicer feel, I would say. And there are little threads on the converter itself, so it actually screws into the grip section here. I'm not sure if I prefer the screw-in converters rather than just the pop-in ones, but it does give it kind of a more luxurious feel. Like I have a Mont Blanc and it has a very similar style converter that screws in. So I feel like they did that very intentionally there to kind of up the luxury factor. It's got a comfortable grip, maybe a little narrow for some people, but for me it works. and the cap posts really nice and secure. It's a bit back weighted, maybe just a tad long, but I actually don't mind writing with this posted. I think it's fine. This pen also came with 2 cartridges, which is nice. And I can't remember which one it was, if it was this one or this one, but one of them came with like a microfiber cloth for like wiping off fingerprints and stuff, which was a nice touch. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them did, which was cool. Also, I forgot to mention, just the fact that this pen comes with a converter is really nice. That definitely kind of gives me some more luxury vibes. With all the entry-level pens, it's really hit and miss whether they actually come with a converter, and most don't. When you start getting into the $45, $50 range like this one, I feel like you start to see converters more often, but it's still not guaranteed. So I like that the converter is just included. That's really nice. All right, let's move on to the more affordable kinds of things. The things that are not so great, or maybe they're fine, but just not super luxurious in my opinion. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, because luxury is one of those terms that's just very subjective. So this is just my opinion, but I want to hear yours as well. So definitely comment what you think of this. Okay, for affordable, let's take a look at the clip here. The clip is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It looks good, I think. It's firm, but not too firm. So it's fairly functional, but I feel like it's nothing crazy outstanding from the rest of the pens at this price point. And this little nub here that kind of clips onto your shirt and helps hold on to it, I wish it were a little smoother. Getting it on and off of material, sometimes it can get snagged a little bit. It's not sharp or anything. I just wish it had a more gradual tapering to it that would allow it to slide on and off of things a little bit more easily. But no huge complaints. Clip is fine. I just don't really see it as like a luxury clip on a luxury pen. Okay, so next let's look at the nib. I like this nib. It's a Schmidt nib, but it's just kind of a stock nib with the Schmidt branding. It does look very nice. I like the design of it. It's elegant. There's no breather hole on it, which is really interesting. Am I allowed to review pens that don't have a breather hole? It's in my channel name, but no, it's a very elegant looking nib. I don't mind the Schmidt branding, but for a luxury pen, I would expect to see the luxury brand's logo on the nib. And I think it's a little odd that the logo is on the converter, but not on the nib. I'm guessing it's a little easier to put your logo on a converter like this because it's just printed on. Rather than some kind of stamping or engraving process. So I'm fine that they went with the stock nibs. I don't have any problem with that, but to me that doesn't really speak of luxury. Also, it's a steel nib. I don't know how many luxury pens there are out there that have steel nibs. I feel like when you start talking about luxury pens, you're automatically talking about gold nibs. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I don't mind the steel nib. I'm not really a gold nib person. I've tried a couple. They're fine, they're great, but I just don't really feel like I have a super big need for them. The steel does fine. Yeah, so I think for a $45 pen, this has a great nib. I just don't think that this is a luxury nib in any way. All right, I wanna give you a writing sample, and then I'll give you some final thoughts about what I think of this pen as far as the luxury and affordability and all that stuff is concerned. Okay, here we go with our writing sample. I hope this is okay with you guys, but I decided to share something that I have written. I recently got a poem published in Red Rock Review, which is a little literary magazine based out of Nevada. And if we turn to page 16, here's my poem. So I'm gonna read this to you. I hope you enjoy it. And then we'll take a look at where I wrote down the first 2 lines and talk about how this pen writes. Okay, so this poem is called Flying South. Hang your doubt on the coat rack. It never kept anyone warm. Exchange it for a coat of feathers. When swallows fly south, silhouetted by sunset, they catch flashes of gold on their wings before folding them and falling. Then they reach again for the light that carries them 1,000 miles. You didn't believe me. We had pulled the car over to watch a rare kind of sunset, the kind that reaches its fire eastward beyond conventional borders. I pointed, you shouted, and finally you saw the candle flicker of sun-stained wings. We stood there a long time, leaning against the car, its veil of dust rubbing off on our backsides, until the sun slipped away and its little disciples found their roosts. We drove home in the gloaming, our voices feathering into silence. Years later, we still talk about that night. All right, so that's Flying South. And here are the first 2 lines of that poem written down. So this is a fine nib that I have on this pen. And it's, I guess you could say, in the Western fine category of things, it's actually pretty darn fine. So I like that. I like fine pens. And you might be able to hear some feedback there. But I find this nib to actually be fairly smooth. I think it's a decent nib. I think it's pleasant to write with, and I enjoy it. It's got some wetness to it, but not terribly wet. It's been mostly, I don't know, pretty controlled and reliable and pleasant to use. So, final thoughts. Is this pen a luxury pen? If you're thinking about pens that cost hundreds of dollars, as a luxury pen, I don't think that this really qualifies. I don't think that this really competes with higher end pens, but I do think that this pen is an affordable, solid, good pen that competes very well in its price point. So 45, 50 bucks, I feel like that's a decent price. I feel like you're getting a decent pen for your money, and it's a fun pen. So I really like it. If you have tried one of these pens before, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you later.